Hey, I'm gonna have to shut the door. After the pledge, I'm shutting the door.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Narragansett Regional School District to order. If everyone would please rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, just as a reminder, this meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and it can be accessed either via our Facebook Live or on YouTube Live if you'd like to catch up on the meeting either during or after the fact. Okay, so our first order of business of tonight is the approval of the meeting minutes of June 14th, 2023, and I would entertain a motion to approve those meeting minutes. I'll give it to Jeff in a second. Okay, any discussion?
Who was that second? I'm sorry. Danielle.
Second with Danielle. Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? And I say yes, so that is unanimous. Okay, moving on to bills and payroll. I would entertain a motion to accept the bills and payroll warrants as presented.
Second.
I'll give first to Jeff, second to Danielle. Any questions or discussions about those attached warrants? Okay, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? And I say yes, so that's unanimous. Okay. We don't have any input tonight, and just in case, anyone from the public looking to speak this evening? Okay, so we'll move on to the NDEA updates.
Not much to update. It's been a quiet summer, so that's always good. Things are quiet, but I've been in touch with a lot of people at all levels, and it sounds like everybody's had a great summer and they're actually ready to go back. So,
Love it. Well, we're looking forward to having everybody back, and thanks for all the hard work everybody's doing to get ready and get prepped.
and I can speak to the middle high school, they were phenomenal. So I just give just,
Yes.
so to our custodial staff, they've done amazing.
Yes, big kudos to our custodial staff. Thank you so much for bringing that up. All right, we're moving right along. So we've got our fiscal year 24 budget update. So I will look over at you, Anne Marie. Is that something you'd like to cover?
Sure. So we have one from the state. They finalized one. It didn't change our Chapter 70 or our town's minimum local contributions. Some of our numbers went up, some of them went down, but like school choice and transportation, those are targets, and we'll see what they actually really come in at next year when the numbers are real. So, other than that, I don't think there's else going on with that.
No, it really has. We're just happy to have a budget, obviously, so whatever grants that are generally, have already been decided, but now we're starting to get into the flow of those. We're starting to send that information out, and we'll know more as the school year starts. Title I, et cetera.
We'll move you on to the business
Yep.
manager's report.
So you'll see there is not a grant one attached this month because we are still in the process of writing the grants. We do have our entitlement numbers for our, like title grants and all our sped grants. And some of the other state ones are starting to come out since the budget has been passed, but none of ours have been finalized and written yet. So that's why you don't see that report attached. The general fund, if you happen to be looking at it and you notice there's a lot of line items that are quite a bit higher when you compare like last year to this year, just keep in mind, most of that is due to the money that was in ESSER that had to move over to the general fund. So that's why there's a lot of those line items that have significant increases. And, accounts payable, Felicia has been pretty busy. She has a lot of our year-long purchase orders already encumbered, so that money is all set aside. So you'll see that there's a lot of stuff encumbered already. And most of our salaries have been encumbered too and set aside. So once payroll happens next week for the first time, we'll have, everybody will be, encumbered and their money set aside. So, and all of our big insurances, like our once-a-year things, they have been paid, so that kind of like is good to get those out of the way.
Hopefully she did come with it somewhere, so it's the.
Yes, absolutely.
Write it down.
So, please thank her for keeping us organized and moving forward. All right. So, school committee comments. Anybody? I did just want to let the school committee know, that Shauna had, I'd seen that, unfortunately, Stephen Marcoulier had passed away, in a tragic accident, and, she alerted, Susan and asked that flowers be sent on behalf of the, school committee, as he was a long-serving member. So our condolences to his family. It's a tragic situation, I see, but, please accept our condolences for that. I also wanted to say that, three of us were able to attend the admin meeting, just yesterday. It was just yesterday.
It's all moving together.
Yeah, it is all moving together.
That was yesterday.
Yesterday, so Shauna, and myself, are all able to attend. It was a fantastic meeting. It was really great to see the admin team in action. They were looking, and learning about the new analytics view, which is, a system that will consolidate, everyone's access to all the different systems and data, that are out there. Everyone is really excited, including us, about the possibilities of what that system will entail. And we also went over some different, ways that the admin team is going to, set some goals and some expectations around communication for this year, coming out of our, district communication survey from last year. So, important to mention that because, those surveys, I'm sure folks take them and then probably don't think of them much again, but we're still using that data to inform the decisions that are being made going into this year. So I wanted to make sure that that was called out, and thank everyone for putting together such a great summary for including us. So it was a really great time to spend together and learn from each other. Anyone else? No? All right, so moving on to new business. We do have quite a few different items, for surplus here. Any details you want to share about these, Susan?
Sure, I can tell you a little bit about them. So from the cafeteria, there is a propane gas tilt top freezing pan that they've had for a while. 40-gallon piece of equipment they no longer use, so they're looking to surplus that out. And also from TES, they had two upright cooling units, as well as a square reach-in cooling unit that they're no longer going to be using. They're putting those up for surplus. The high school science department had roughly 350 old science books of different varieties, chemistry, very old and outdated, not really useful. And IT also gave us a list of things. They have some Chromebooks that are outdated. Many of them are broken, as they always do. They send them to a place that kind of wipes them clean and recycles them. We have 19 Chromebook charging cards that we got just before COVID hit, I guess it was. And then people started bringing their Chromebooks home, so we've had these for 3 years, kind of just being moved from one place to the other, and they're taking up quite a bit of room, so they're looking to surplus those as well. Yeah. Okay.
All right, unless anyone is opposed, I'm going to suggest a motion to surplus those items as presented as an entire group as opposed to individually. Is everyone okay with that?
So moved.
Hank has moved, Rebecca has seconded. All right, any questions or comments?
I have a quick question. Are these Chromebooks, when you say many broken, I guess I look at it from the standpoint, are any of them, good enough to present as, typically ready for use? I guess I think
Yeah,
that would be my question. I have no problem surplusing it all, but I'm looking at perhaps as a lead out later.
Once I will tell you that they do everything they can to get, to keep as many of these Chromebooks in service as possible. So if they go out and they are, I guess, broken to the point where they cannot be fixed, it's generally the screen has been, crunched somehow, just weird, or you're missing the A, D, C, G keys, or whatever the case is. They'll do everything they can, but by the time we say, look, they're surplus, they do not have any life left in them, because we'll keep using them as backups and for actual, Chromebooks for our kids. So yeah, by the time,
Okay.
yeah,
No, just
we actually take as much
curious.
as we can. So
And we do surplus, so our surplus policy is
Goes
once
to the
the
towns
items
first.
are surplus by the committee, we offer them out to the district towns
Okay.
free of charge.
Mhm.
And if it's an item that's worth money, then we'll, if no one from the town wants it, then we'll bid out for it, if someone wants to put a bid in.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right. So yes, so that's unanimous as well. Okay, so we were hoping to be interviewing for the open school committee position for Phillipston today. Unfortunately, we did not receive any, submissions. So, we're going to post again following this meeting. We're hoping that that was just a summer lull. Folks are, looking forward to having a break, not necessarily thinking about the school year, but we're still posting. So certainly if anybody knows of anyone in Phillipston who you think would be a good match, this is a great time to actually sort of try out being on the school committee, because the commitment is only through the election in May. And so this is a good time to just sort of do like a bit of a trial run if you want to apply, to make a final decision about whether or not you wish to run around the, I'm gonna say February time period when papers come out, February, March time frame. Thank you for nodding at me. March time frame when papers come out, for people who wish to run. So, please do pass that along. We're very eager to make sure that both of our towns are represented on the school committee, and as long as that seat remains empty, we're definitely looking for folks to step up. So please do. All right. Fiscal year '24 field trips. Who can give us a quick overview of what we
Is it
have
posted?
at the
I can
moment?
tell you a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are the field trips that are in line for the outdoor adventure class. Typically, they do them as they come, and we came up with the idea that this year, if he submitted them all at once, he usually knows the dates ahead of time, that they could get them approved. So he did attach one for the most recent, the newest one that's coming up is in September, I'm thinking the 12th and
Yeah.
22nd. And then the other ones he can submit as they come, but we thought if the board, or if the committee was,
so inclined.
wanted to do, so inclined that they could just approve all the out-of-state ones, it's just for this one class.
So there's two different out-of-state ones here.
Yes, it's the same trip, they're doing it twice. He didn't, when he handed in the report, it didn't have the dates on it, so this is for the 15th and the 22nd of September, and it's going to, I don't know the name of the beach.
It's
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of I have the, hold on, it's in the,
And there's a second one, there's the February one as well, are you reading the same one? There's February 9th
Yeah,
and
so there's
16th that
Two
came.
in September, then there's two in December, and then 2 in February. Those are all the
Oh,
out-of-state.
yeah.
Sacculus Beach in Middletown, Rhode Island.
And just so I'm clear, the purpose of this trip is to continue there.
It's for the outdoors adventure class.
Boogie board and also surf, also known as the second beach. Yes, I did read that for a second.
Well, if you read the second page of the
Yeah.
request, it says students who, oh, I'm sorry.
So how does it meet? It's the students who cannot attend. They talk about, this has to do, it's aligned with the curriculum, and they had to create also a alternative project for those who did not want to boogie board or to surf. And so, this is something that they did last year as well, I believe. I don't believe this is the first time this has happened, or the first occasion where they've gone to the Rhode Island beach, obviously early in the season because it gets a little cold in November. So, and the nurse will attend the trip as well.
December is Mount Monadnock, and then in February is an ice climb. And am I seeing correctly that there's no cost associated with any of these?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, so we're just voting to approve a certain.
The out-of-state trips.
Okay, all right. I would entertain a motion to approve the out-of-state field trips for the outdoor adventure class, in September, December, and February as presented. A motion by Danielle and the second by Hank. All right, any questions or comments?
I just think I just want to follow up, and I think Dr. Casper already mentioned it, that this is all part of the curriculum, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. I'm good.
All right.
I'd like to comment. I really appreciate that these types of experiences are offered to our students. Some of these things the students would not be able to ever arrange to do on their own. And so anytime we can create an opportunity for them to experience the world around them, I think that we should encourage it.
Mr. Donofrio does an excellent job with creating opportunities that they've never, ever have been a part of. The ice climbing is something that great, not only request, the kids love it. They do a lot of outdoor. I mean, he's brought them to some unbelievable, again, opportunities. So yeah, it's well received, and again, whether you're looking at the PE standards or the outdoor standards, or they have a lot of fun, and also they learn another skill. And I'm understanding that a couple of those students 2 years ago have actually now have gone to the next step of ice climbing, which seems ridiculous to me. I didn't know that there should be another step, quite frankly, but they, so it's been, obviously it's been well received. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I was
Right.
going. I agree with her. I think it's wonderful that we have these opportunities, but as long as it falls someplace in this curriculum, we're okay. So I appreciate that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Abstained? And I say yes, so that is also unanimous. Okay. Norfolk County Agricultural School Transportation. So Dr. Johnson, if you don't mind,
Oh,
I'm gonna
but I
hand
do.
this over to you,
Yes.
for a summary of where we are at the moment.
So just when you think you know everything, I'd say that tongue in cheek. We're presented with, situations all the time. So I would say it was I think it was somewhere around early July. We received a phone call from a resident Templeton resident, whom has legal custody of her granddaughter, and that, well, actually, I take that back. That's when we received a phone call. Many months before that, around February-ish, January, February-ish, we were, under the understanding, by we, I mean the district and the town of Templeton, that there was a potential that one of the residents' students who does not go to school here, okay, but they are a resident, wanted to, had applied to Norfolk Aggie. And that is an agricultural, vocational, technical school. So think Monty Tech, but in the agricultural realm. That's out in Walpole, Massachusetts, mind you. Okay, so it's quite a ways away. And we happened to be at the select board meeting that the superintendent from Norfolk Aggie was trying to give some background information. But at that point in time, it was not clear because they had not gone. None of the vocational schools had completed their application process. So, for all practical purposes, it went dark for a while. Nobody had any information. Then, lo and behold, somewhere around April, the March, April, May timeframe, we were notified that, in fact, Norfolk Aggie had accepted her into the program. So this was new. It was new for everyone. What we were clear on, I think, and I say we collectively, is that when the superintendent for Norfolk Aggie spoke about it, he spoke of tuition, and that seemed, everybody's understood that. Through our own process, meaning Monty Tech, proportionately, the tuition is broken down percentage-wise for both towns, depending on how many students from each town, et cetera. So, but the transportation, I don't believe, at least to the town from Norfolk Aggie, the superintendent was really not discussing. All right. So, I think both the town and the district received phone calls in regards to, well, geez, what do I do about busing? How do I get my granddaughter to and fro, et cetera? And for lack of a better word, it created kind of a firestorm of just back and forth and emails and really trying to find some clarity on what exactly is non-resident or, vocational non-resident student tuition pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 74, which it was. You would think it'd be easier to find the information. It was not, quite honestly. So Adam and I, had a lot of back and forth about, what should we do. So the very first thing that we do, and again, from a district's perspective, Anne Marie and I, we're like, okay, so this is an accounting thing. This is a money issue, thing. So we called Jay Sullivan, who's the associate commissioner for the department, who is the finance. I think he's actually the finance associate commissioner. So he's it. So we emailed him and said, what do we do here? And he came back to say that it was the town's responsibility, but in essence, play nice, be helpful, because towns don't set up transportation necessarily in these situations. So Adam and I discussed this, and we went out and got quotes, because that's what was requested of us, and so we forwarded them. But, in the meantime, it was just still unclear, about the parameters, and so we kept digging, because I just did not know enough about this. We know that chapter transportation is reimbursed, and, from Anne Marie and I's perspective, former business manager, but real business manager, we know that the end of report is where everything lives. That's how we account for everything, and we know what schedule transportation is on. So we did a lot of checking, and we forwarded a lot of information back and forth. So ultimately, I contacted the associate commissioner of vocation, it's CC. College careers, vocational, I think, readiness, if I've got that right. and spoke with the associate commissioner, and she turned me to Mrs. Marnie Janney, who really kind of runs this end of things. She sent we asked a lot of questions because, again, we didn't know much about this situation in terms of what happens if the student wants to play basketball after school. Is there a responsibility for whoever's transporting? The answer is right. So we went back and forth with some questions. We forwarded it over to the town. So I think it was, what was this? Oh my God, it was the longest meeting in history. Just recently, we attended the Templeton Select Board meeting on August 9th, which I believe literally went for 12 hours. I'm not quite sure, but it was the longest meeting I have ever seen, and I honestly applaud the committee, honestly, for staying with all of that for so long, quite frankly. Just for the record, I'd like to say that the chair of the school committee abandoned the superintendent early on, and left the poor superintendent to his own device, somewhere around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the evening. So, in any event, what is, and again, when you read all this documentation, quite frankly, there's a lot of it, and as much is in the Department of Ed, it is winding. It says a lot, or it doesn't say enough. Nothing is definitive. It's really hard to peel it away unless you really dig in deep. So we found some documents, and I really forwarded everything that I had to Adam, because I just wanted to make sure that he understood where we think this all lies. All right. So during the meeting, town council felt it was the school's responsibility, which I clearly understand what section the attorney is talking about, because it talks about the school committee, but yet the documents that we have show that the town, and it's really convoluted. Let us be clear that Adam and I are fine, and the town and I are fine. We communicate a lot, and so my point of all of this is that, yes, it's not that we disagree. We are being told two different things from two very important bodies of folk, right? The town's attorney is telling the town, I got Desi telling me this, right? Thus, prompted an email on or about 1:30 in the morning, because it really was bothering me, because it was hard. It was a hard conversation, because I didn't want it to appear to be as that we were being, kind of communicative, or that we were not going to participate. So I wrote an email to make sure that the board knew that any and all information that I, presented, and I gave I think I gave one or two documents to the committee, is that this is what we're being told. So ultimately, all the district has is what it's being told by Jay Sullivan, again, who really defines what we do financially. I had never talked to the associate commissioner of college careers and vocation before, but she was quite clear and passed along information. It would appear, as you keep digging into this information, that a conversation can happen, it should happen, there can be agreements made, et cetera, et cetera. So Adam, rightfully so, contacted Marnie Janney and said, hey, ultimately, we need some type of meeting here, because we're all confused. As I left the board, the only, what I'm worried about as an educator, in something that we deal with in schools, is of course, FAPE, right? Free and appropriate education, least restrictive environment. Not providing access to education is our biggest issue, right, in schools, right? You have to provide access. I worry because as these days tick on, and I really only say this quite honestly, for the child's benefit, whether it be the town or us, that we provide that, because then it gets really, it turns ugly quick, right? So we think that we have a meeting coming up. I got a 3-letter email just today or yesterday that said, we will be in touch. Okay? We've got a week and a half before school starts, and we're going to try to figure this all, we're going to try to figure this all out. Again, clear, we are not just disagreeing like from a standpoint of not budging. We're giving two bits of information, and we need someone honestly just to say, no, this is what you do. This is what you should do. So that's where we're at. The grandmother has contacted, not recently, I probably will reach out, not probably, I will reach out next week just to make sure that she understands that we're still trying to unravel this, because I do not want, and I will certainly call the superintendent of Norfolk Aggie, just to make sure that he understands that, this is what we're doing, so that way there's no penalty or there's no issues, because the student really has no issue here, right? It's just, so there it is. I mean, these are costs worth $50,000 worth of transportation, give or take. Am I correct? I want to make sure I say that right. So, I mean, we're not talking about, 10 grand here or 15 grand, which still is a lot of money. But when you start talking about $50,000 just to transport, and by the way, as the crow flies, it's an hour and 40 minutes or 30, pardon me, yeah, 20 minutes. And by the way, that's if you're just, you're just going down the highway, right? And that's Walpole, it's 495, yeah, that's no traffic. So, I mean, there's 1,000 things that happen. So, but she's committed to this. She's committed to Norfolk Aggie, to the programs that they offer. The student has to, yes. No, well, have not yet, because, school, right, but the plan is that she will commute daily. So it's really in the means of an update. If you watched the meeting or you heard otherwise, we're all good. Adam and I understand each other very well. We're good. I want to make sure I say that out loud, not in a joking way. It's just we don't know what to do at this point.
It's a novel situation.
Yeah.
For the town and for the district, and having done my own research, read everything I could find on it, as I'm sure the town of Templeton has been doing, the information is very unclear. It is literally contradictory from one source to another, and so this is a tough one to sort out. So many thanks to Adam for reaching out to the state so that we can, continue to treat this collaboratively and figure out what the right solution here is, because at the end of the day, we're talking about a student who is pursuing a passion, and that's a tough situation to, have to navigate, between making sure that the student has everything that they need, as well as considering, what is it that the town and the district need to do to support that student. So, yeah.
And looking
So we're
at-
looking forward to
absolutely,
that meeting, but
yeah.
that meeting is still pending, is my understanding of that.
And this is not the first occasion, as we learned, looking into this, that a student had attended Norfolk Aggie from Templeton.
Oh.
Which was, I got to tell you, I was shocked. Right? I mean, if nothing else, we were shocked to find that someone commuted. I guess I don't know. This was quite a bit ago. So I thought it was interesting, and so this isn't out of the realm of just out of nowhere. But for us, I will say this is not something that Anne Marie and I have been around a while, quite frankly. But this was something completely new to us that we've had to really dig into. So. I don't know.
It was when I first started, it was back in the 90s, I don't remember.
And back in the 90s, this statute would have changed, because when you do the research and you read about this, there was a short amount of time that they said, nope, vocational, non-resident vocational transportation is up to, to the student. And then the following year, they issued another guidance that said, literally, the next year, they said, well, I think probably someone got sued, I'm going to assume, and they changed the guidance and said, no, you've got to provide transportation. So there's been a lot of changes through these guidances, which, by the way, are not easy to find. They just don't sit out there right on the non-resident transportation section, which they have, by the way, on the Department of Ed website. They don't sit there necessarily, so you have to dig. Well, and that's interesting. That's been asked of me by the chair, and I will say that honestly, this is really, please take this in the right way, this is really up to DESI legal. We are following the literally, we're following the pieces of paper that they gave us. And so DESI legal would probably have to weigh in, I guess, would have to weigh in. This really isn't if DESI legal were to come and say, oh no, school, I know what we told you, but here's another guidance, well, that's what it is. Yeah. Oh, well, through the chair.
Go ahead. Thank you.
To echo Dr. Castanet's point, what we really want is, we want DESI to come back and say, this is what you do, because the legalese and everything we're trying to look at here, depending on who reads it on any given day of the week, it's on Tuesday, 6 p.m., they could interpret it. So we need DESI legal to come back and say, this is how you do it. It's not a question of whether or not the payment is going to come. We're going to pay the money.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, we already know that we're going to put a warrant on the town meeting for the tuition anyways, and then whatever the ruling comes back from DESI will figure it out.
Yeah.
Yep, yep, that's clear, and thank you for contributing. It is tough, and yes, this is one of those things where you go, well, who needs to weigh in on this?
Right.
But
And really,
I
right
think
now,
that's great.
it's DESI that needs to be, DESI that needs to come back and say,
Here's
here's
how
what
to
we
do
need
this.
you to do.
That's right. That's right.
I'm sure the same with the town as it would be with us. I think one of my big concerns, just so I'm clear, is you don't want to set a precedent that where the waters are so muddy, you want to be very clear on what you're doing.
That's correct, and that's why we don't want to do something about DESI having said it out loud and said, do this, because then we have the precedent from the body that governs it, and if we have a situation like this in the future, we can just go back and say, hey, we did this back in 2023,
Right.
do this.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, so Dr. Castanet, we'll look forward to getting an update.
I look forward to giving one,
You,
actually. I can't wait to be able to. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Okay, sticking with legislation and laws and things. So back in July, we received a communication from Franklin County, if I remember correctly. Yes, Franklin County, asking for the Narragansett Regional School District, either as committee members or as a district as a whole, to support some bills that are coming up for review. This relates to the rural schools bills, H3567 and S2388. And so I wanted to make sure that we brought this in front of the committee, because if we do, there's a few different options of what we can do with this, which I'll go through quickly. So basically, as individual school committee members, as elected officials, anyone can actually sign on to the letter to say, as an elected official, I support this bill. If we want to do something as a committee, then that has to be voted on. We have to all agree as to that. And there are two options. Either send a letter, or we can pass a resolution in support. If we need to do a resolution, then that's a little bit more formal writing, and we probably also have to agree to what is written. The letter is a little bit less formal, but still sends in that voice of support. Essentially, this was put into place by school districts that are seeing declining student enrollment, which is not something we're experiencing here in our district. But it also is covering the very high cost of transportation that regional school districts have because of that multi-town setup, as well as some of the other unique challenges. So it's really rural school districts saying, hey, state, we are not given enough funding to provide the services that our students need. It makes up for Chapter 70 issues for schools, even high enrollment, as well as for those transportation costs. So I sent this out a little bit in advance so everybody had a chance to review motion, but before we go into that, I did want to leave space to kind of discuss or ask questions. I know, Danielle, that you did some pretty extensive research on this, spent a couple hours looking into it, so kind of wanted to open up the floor to anybody who wants to ask a question or make a statement, or, I can't promise that I'll have the answers, but between Danielle and I, maybe we can chat. I'm going to take silence to mean that nobody has anything to say. However, what is the school committee feeling in terms of joint support? And would anybody like to make a motion so that we can discuss a specific motion, either related to a resolution or to a letter?
Can I ask a quick question? Can you do 2 out of the 3 options that you wrote? Or, for
Could you be more
example,
specific, please?
before I make a motion, I would like, if we could agree as a committee, to send a letter to the Joint Commission on Education. But I also, if needed, further discuss between all of us if there is a reason for us to make and vote on a resolution as well. So I guess I like both of those, and I don't know if it's possible to do both.
That is a good question. Danielle, do you?
I don't think it matters. My thinking is that we are not seeing declining enrollment right now. But we should stand with the districts around us that are, many of them are. I'm concerned that passing a resolution is almost should be something for districts that might be experiencing the decline. So a letter, maybe, but that doesn't that we could still sign a letter that's already prepared individually. So we could do 2 out of 3, just might not be those 2. Because I think it would probably make more sense to either do the letter or create a resolution.
That's a good
It's
point.
just my.
I mean, I can remember as, sitting up there not so long ago, listening about declining enrollment in that situation that we were in. So we were not there, we were just there not that long ago. So I definitely want to give support to
It would
these
still
districts.
benefit us because, we did see, some funds given to the district through SOA. This would allow us more because it covers the transportation for regional and rural districts, and that we didn't see much of an increase in that funding. But it certainly helps the districts around us that are being crushed by the costs associated with transportation, and their enrollments are decreasing at the same time.
Madam Chair. So, you're right. Narragansett last year, we had 100 students. We talked about this a lot. But with perspective, and if you go back to 2007 or 8, I don't have my graph, we were in the area of 1,600 students in the area, give or take. So we're hovering at, we don't know until we know, right? But, till school starts, but we're around 1,440, in that area. So we have seen over the last couple of years, have seen quite an increase. Matter of fact, we saw 2 very large years increase. Right? This year does not. We seem to be kind of leveling off, which is great, to be very candid. Because if we would have seen another 100 students, I'm not sure. Again, we still have a week left, so I want to, oh God, what I mean? I sit there. But in any event, in terms of declining enrollment, I suppose what I mean to say is that it all depends on where you start. I think that, give or take, we're 200 or so students less than we were, say, 2007, 8, or, when we started collecting this information. I think it's important to sign on to these type of initiatives because Narragansett, truthfully, is the gateway to Western Mass. We have some issues that my friends out in Western Mass are experiencing right now, full force. we are close enough to central Mass, although we're north central, but we are close enough where we don't, I guess, we have not experienced the full brunt of some of those issues at this point in time. I think that it could easily be said that we could, though, right, depending on whatever the wind blows here or there. I mean, I think we're all, I think COVID had a big part of with folks moving west. If it settles to this amount, well, we will see, right, with SOA. But I think it still benefits Narragansett, and depending on where you're, where you're looking from, we are still, we're not where we were, say, 15, 20 years ago. So, 17.
Sean, I thought I saw you thinking about talking. I just want to make sure you.
No.
Okay. Okay. So.
I think my question was going to be more based on, do we know any of the schools in that are near geographic communities that are that demonstrated how it's at home are.
Bethel, Mohart,
Yeah.
Springfield School District,
Yeah.
Fields.
Quite a bit out. They're looking at
Pioneer.
Pioneer is a district that has really had some struggles and are looking to do something very, very different. So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
this is ultimately just an equity area. It's got to be.
So would anyone like to propose a motion?
I think it's important that we decide if everyone is everybody in the table.
I thought we were-
I think there's something to be said about the strength of the individual rather than just.
Okay, so, Sean has made a motion, to send a joint letter, in support of these bills, and Sean seconded. Any further questions or comments? Okay.
We have to send it, do we know how we send it? I just think, I think that takes time and
Yeah, that makes,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Okay.
We used to do that, but.
We can-
Okay. So what I'm gonna, so would someone like to amend the motion?
Sure, I will amend my motion. I will amend my motion. I feel that the committee, we can send a joint letter that we will agree to the project.
Okay, so we need to vote on the amendment. And an amendment vote is a roll call vote, right, Hank? Okay. So Sean voted to amend that we will write the letter and review it and agree to it before sending, and Sean seconded. Any questions or comments about the amendment? Seeing none, I'll do roll call, so Hank? Sean? Shauna?
Yes.
Danielle? And Jeff? And I say yes. So we have voted yes to the amended motion to, write a joint letter, but to further approve that joint letter before we send. Everybody clear?
Yes.
How did you, Hank?
Good.
All right.
Jen, can I just ask one thing?
Yes.
From the email that we got, there wasn't any correspondence back to that school committee member, right?
Correct. I don't know that there's an expectation of
Okay.
correspondence back.
That's
If
what I was getting at. Thank
That was
you.
a letter that
Okay.
was sent to as many school committees as they could.
Okay.
So, and this is the first opportunity we've had to
Yeah.
consider the matter. So really what they're looking for is for us to support. And then, of course, just as a reminder, if someone is feeling passionate about adding their voice personally, you can absolutely sign on, as an individual, as an official, to support the bill, via the link that is in the administrative content. Okay. So I don't think we have any items that popped up in the last 48 hours. So I will move on to Dr. Cassavant and the superintendent report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, it's the beginning. It's the beginning. And we are starting our school year off, honestly, very, I'm not going to jinx us, but we're doing well. I'll start with the conditions of the buildings. I think it was mentioned earlier, but our custodial staff, again, every single year, honestly, they do wonderful work. I mean, these buildings are in great shape. You just walk around, you can see yourself in the floors. They've moved rooms. They've done all these wonderful, wonderful things, and they take great pride in that. And I want to thank them publicly because they do such a great job, honestly. On that vein, we had our walkthrough with the Templeton Fire Chief for our annual inspection. We did fantastic. We had zero issues at all up here at the middle and high school, which, we're an older building. I mean, sometimes it's easy, but Keith and his crew have done an excellent job really getting, fixing a lot of the issues that we've been kind of chasing for a couple of years. TES did wonderful as well. I mean, it's a brand new building. So kudos to Keith and his entire maintenance and custodial staff. So the cafeteria, we all sent our letters out. All the schools always send their letters out first because that's truly who they want to hear from. And then I send one out and they go, I could care less. And I get that. I understand. It doesn't hurt my feelings anymore. Really, we've been very organized in the way that we have pushed out information. The website, which we've talked about a lot, I won't go overboard, but truthfully, all the information that folks have been looking for, need, want, etc., is accessible. It's easy to find, etc. And some of the things that we have done, we try to do a project every year. We try to do something every single year, and this year it was the cafeteria. And I chuckled just a little bit because for the last couple of years, I've had kids come through there through a project-based that they pick a topic and they really have to kind of solve it and do something about it, right? Work towards correcting the issue. And so for the last 2 or 3 years, I've had numerous groups of kids come to us and say things like, please do something with the cafeteria. Please do something with the food. We'd like a salad bar. We'd like this. We'd like that. So over the last couple of years, we have slowly, the seating and, that kind of thing. So we have changed the color palette in the cafeteria. It is strikingly bold. How's that? Very bright. We have new tables coming in. It's an important thing. The tables that we have break very easily, but they're also handicapped accessible, which generally, I forget how many of the total tables, but they have cutouts in which folks who may be in wheelchairs, who have some type of ambulatory, concern can access the tables, which obviously is important. I want to thank Glenwood Kitchens. We asked them to come. There was an opening where I believe dishwashers were when we added the small caf, and it's just been there, and it's just this big metal door. So we took it out, and we asked them to come and maybe, make it look a little bit more presentable. They came up, they looked at it, and they said, we're gonna put some kitchen counter. I said, oh, that'd be great. It works, and they just did it for free. And so I want to thank, and they just really kind of did it like on the spot free, like, we're like, what do we owe you? And they're like, nothing. You're like, oh, great. So, the Glen, I want to just say that they were really great to us, from Templeton. And, they're from Templeton, but they were fantastic. I just want to make sure I pointed that out because I think it was really something, and they were pretty happy to do it. So I want to thank them. So the new space is really, we're moving in the right direction, and we have more things to do. We might open up our a la carte options, which a la carte equals sometimes ice cream, chips and ice cream, and that kind of thing. Those are big for kids to do, and the reason why we shut it down for a while because children were spending their lunch money on ice cream and chips, okay, which was great, which is odd. I honestly didn't have a problem with it, but apparently others did. No, so we shut it down for a while, And so, anyway, so I think that was a big deal, and we're gonna slowly kind of wind our way into that, because lunches are free. So if they do bring money, they won't be not having the opportunity to eat. But the salad bar is a big deal, if I didn't mention that already. Kids can't wait. We have someone who's ready to man or woman the salad bar, and off we go.
We have a couple new murals in there
Thank you.
too. There was a couple existing ones, but because of the way it was painted, they've actually been added to, and we have a new mural out in the small cap. And there's more to come, we just ran out of time.
Just ran out of time. So, okay, so, just yesterday, because this is part of the report, I'll stay with the staffing update first, and I'll save this for the end. So, staffing updates, this is the time of year we cross our fingers. I think over the last 2 days, we've received 3 letters of resignation. 1 middle school teacher, 2 paraprofessionals maybe, if I have that, or two middle school teachers and 2 paraprofessionals. I might be, okay, it all kind of blends together. So we, we're holding strong, but we've had some subtractions from our team. We're going to, of course, post. This is a tough time of the year, as everyone knows. So we'll keep you updated. It really, it's a real tense time for every district around here right now. I've got to tell you, I consider them friends, but I swear if they take any teacher of ours, I'm just gonna, we'll do something. So we have a good relationship. We understand. We have to fill holes. So we'll see what happens. But I mean it. So if you're listening, Gardner, stay away. So as in terms of kind of a pleasant surprise, I got a call from Adam yesterday. And I'm going to have to bring the board back a couple of years, quite frankly, when we were talking about ARPA project requests. ARPA monies were town monies. And 2 years ago, Anne Marie and I, we were asked to create a priority list of ARPA funds, if you remember, and we met through our facilities subgroup, and we created this list of, of projects. Okay, so they were going to be facility-based projects. These are not going to be add teachers or something to that effect. These were physical plant type of things. And so we created this. We created this list. We met with both towns through I think it was during budget time, I believe, Anne Marie, and we presented the list. In terms of Templeton, they were very receptive, but they had a lot on their plate. They had a lot to figure out. The bridge had just been semi-closed, and there was just a lot to be done. And so, really, we were just put on hold, and that was fine. Everyone understood that. These are monies that are the towns to disperse, however they so choose, and if they were, if they could find a way to do that, they would. And the chair, Mike Curry, at the time said, if there's a way to do this, then we will, and we'll, basically get back to you. Well, I guess in the scheme of things, Templeton is getting, I don't know, I would certainly defer, but we did receive a phone call from Adam, and because he just wanted to go over the numbers again, and I have to tell you that I had to find the sheet, because it's been 2 years. I truly couldn't, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that, sure I do, so. Of course, our HVAC upgrades have been the priority in terms of our one of our major priorities. We did a lot of work during COVID, using a lot of state monies to fix what we could, as everyone knows. I shared with this committee earlier in the year that Representative Zlotnick has secured $50,000 to continue that work. And if so, and if Templeton, I believe, during maybe an upcoming school committee meeting to discuss this, if in fact it would work out that way, that we look to, in some manner, be able to increase, we would be able to, we asked for $107,000 from the town of Templeton, because it was proportionate at the time. We asked Phillipson for X, we asked Templeton for Y in terms of the percentage. And the other was to replace the internet core switches for $64,000, which are vital now, because we are certainly working at our peak in terms of connectability with technology. But the other, and my favorite, honestly, is the what we call the family subsidy for extended day. Back 2 years ago, we were coming out of awful, right? It was just awful. And what we wanted to do, and I want to say that it was Jeff Bennett, honestly, I do remember us having a conversation about what could we do for families with extended day, right? And could we offset any costs, right? So we looked at how many families we had at the time, and we proportioned it out. And so $43,015 came to this amount for Templeton. And we did a quick check, and give or take 43 families. That would allow, if this were to happen, to present each family, quote unquote, with $1,000 credit for extended day. And that to me is a game changer, right? For a lot of our families, in a sense. And so what I want to say is that, look, the town of Templeton called us. We really just, I assumed that monies, and maybe they will be used otherwise, and that's completely their prerogative, and understand that. I just appreciate that we were still in the conversation, that they thought, enough to give us a call to say, hey, are these projects still open? And of course they are. We haven't been able to put money towards these initiatives, especially the subsidy. I'll call it a subsidy. So, in any event, I'm not sure how it'll all break down or how it'll all fall out. I am honestly just happy that that Mike Curry and company were thinking about just, and this will come up in conversation, and they'll divvy out the money however way they do it. But I want to thank them for just remembering that we did present many years ago, and they doubled back, and I just wanted to make sure I shared that with the committee as part of my report. Last and certainly not least is school choice. So this is the time of the year where we go, okay, how are we looking? We have all these people on wait lists. Can we take any more? Should we? The answer is no. The answer is no. The elementary, and that, by the way, I never talk numbers now because literally it's like the stock market, up, down. Three come, three go, 100, and we are in that time of the year. But I will tell you that when you just look at the plus minus, just the plus minus of how many kids have gone and how many kids are coming in, the elementary, it's like 10 to 1. Honestly, X amount of kids have moved in, grades K through 4, 3 kids have moved out. Yep, we lost 28 kids to Monty Tech, which we do. We know that, the 9th graders, but we didn't lose much else, quite frankly. Some folks have moved out. They wanted to school choice. We can't. Quite honestly, our numbers up here at the high school are high. The middle school is high. The largest group that we've seen in, I don't know how many years, 128 5th graders this year, right? And only 7 of them are school choice. So that gives you an understanding about how many residents are sitting in that group right there, just give or take. Don't quote me on the, I have to check every year, right? But the fact is that we are full in some very interesting areas, right? And we talked about a lot. So it's my recommendation to the committee that we take the smart move and say no to any school choice students at this point in time, because we just are really we're full, for lack of a better word, and it's just. We've closed school choice anyway, as we do. You asked for an update, if I should, and then I would probably, if we could, I'd say, well, I'd like to take 4 here that I'm not extending the opportunity.
Staying with the amounts that you-
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Any other updates?
You look to me, I don't know, Susan?
No, I just have a question about school choice.
Mhm.
So, we had the initial amounts that we had talked about.
Mhm.
We didn't fill all the seats, but we're
Yep.
not taking the full amounts in some of the higher grades that we had thought we would, like
Mm.
9, 10,
Right.
we had 10 openings. But
We opened up quite a few, right? And we've waited all summer, right? We've waited and nothing. But then, about this time of the year, but at this point, listening to Colby, Mr. Young, pardon me, about where his numbers are at right now in terms of some classes. We're not, we can't do, we just should not do it.
Well, to come back to a previous topic, I do just want to say, please do extend our thanks to Glenwood Kitchens, for all the work that they do in the cafeteria. That's fantastic. We really appreciate that support. We're really lucky to be in a district where, companies throughout the district offer support in different ways. And so please do extend our thanks. I don't know if you can write it on a letter or you.
Yeah, we'll get
Yeah.
Wonderful. Any questions for Dr. Cassavant on anything else he presented? Okay. So Molly, I don't know if you have any curriculum instruction updates for us this week?
I do, I just have a couple. At the end of the school year last year, I was also I'm excited to tell you that we are running with that, and we started off with our administrators coming in
However, I run the mentoring program at Mahar, and we had all of our mentors and mentees come in, and so I was sad, but on the other hand, doing some important work. And I'm sure you guys will catch me up on what I missed. My question is, what program did the district purchase for their data warehousing?
We have started by looking at 500 companies, quickly narrowed down to 2 to 3 by far the top 3
Seeing a lot of districts look to those types of programs with the influx of data that is constantly coming into the school, and it's to look at data separately is one thing, but to be able to have a complete picture of what's going on in one platform is amazing. And I know Molly and I got to look at some of those programs when we were at the MASC conference last year, and my district has adopted one as well, but I'm interested in what you guys are doing too. Good
Sean,
stuff.
did you want to say something about that?
Yeah, Molly, it's refreshing to hear all that great news, and I did get to attend that. It was very vibrant, and I thought it was very well done. You know, I hope to be invited to more of that, because it was good to see, it was good to be a part of that, and form that sense of community. So, it's appreciated.
I do want to add about analytics, you just, since this is a public meeting, that this is brand new to administrators and teachers this year. And so while everyone is very excited and eager for this, everyone is getting trained. So please consider this the year of training, the year of rollout. This is not, no new system has any magic buttons in it that instantly make everything, work smoothly, and, there's always that human factor. So, we're definitely eager and excited for the insights that will come from this tool, but also just a note, because if there can sort of be this expectation of, oh, you have access to this data, show me right now. I'll show you right now. It will come, but yeah, it's definitely exciting. Danielle, did you have anything else you
The
wanted
only
to
other
say?
thing is I was just Googling investigating history, and oh my gosh, it is amazing.
all over the source that actually piloted being able to last year, and now they adopted that they put them on all open source resources, and they are sending grants towards that, so access that for training and very helpful.
Anything else? All right. Okay, subcommittees. So we started talking in the last meeting, but though it was not a 5-hour, 45-minute meeting, it was quite a long meeting, and so we decided that we were going to suspend this topic to this particular session. Seeing as the start of the school year is right around the corner, this is something that I would very much like to get settled so that we can get subcommittee meetings scheduled. So just to review, we have a number of subcommittees today covering different topics. What we want to explore this year is consolidating some of those subcommittees, giving each of them specific focus and specific tasks, for lack of a better term, which I think is going to be especially important as we are, leaner this year, so that this way folks can, narrow in and focus on what they need to. So the three that are on the table that we'd like to explore are combining finance and facilities, because those two topics are so intertwined, and especially with this being a building, of some upgrades, et cetera, making sure that those conversations are being had jointly. The other was district operations. So academic and admin have historically already been combined. They were not combined last year, but as the person who sat on both of those, they were the same meeting. And so bringing those back together, but then adding an also talked about is there's sort of two different types of policies that need to be looked at. There are policies that are coming to us from DESE where it's, you know, a change here, a change there. It's editorial in nature. It's not actually substantively changing the policy. And then there are policies that do require extensive review, discussion, because you are rewriting a policy or writing a policy that is specific to this district and not just based on standards that are coming in from NASC or DESE or whoever they're coming in from. So those would continue to go to this subcommittee for review, but anything that's just a grammar change, we'd like to see those start to just be passed through directly to the school committee. It's just a time savings and efficiency thing for me, because if nobody needs to look at those in advance of passing those on. You know, when you're changing pronouns, whatever it is, those can pass through. And there's labor relations, and this is a really essential subcommittee for us. We've historically been meeting with the NDEA, but as part of the negotiations with UFCW in the spring, they were very interested in starting up their own version, which is referred to as the Work Environment Committee. And so my initial thought, though this would be pending what this particular subcommittee decides, as well as the conversations with those individual unions, perhaps it's every 1 month is UFCW, the other's NDEA. Again, that subcommittee can make that decision. I am not making that decision, but that this team would be in charge of meeting with both of those unions and helping to make sure that the needs of those unions, the needs of those union members are met throughout the year and not just during the negotiating period. Because we did find in the UFCW negotiation there were a number of topics that were brought up that really were not specific to negotiations and were much more about just relationships and making sure that everybody was getting what they needed in order to be successful. So we want to make sure that those conversations are continuing and that folks are dedicated to helping with those. So I'm going to just start by opening up the floor for discussion. Either if anyone has concerns about the changes that are being made or current subcommittees that are kind of going to be dissolved, or not kind of, are going to be dissolved to build these new committees, or if anyone has a question about what we're suggesting as the purview here, again, any inputs are welcome, any questions are welcome. I know that this is very new and different to what we've been doing, but we're hoping that, you know, some additional focus here can help make these meetings just that much more productive.
Jen, I can start.
Sure.
I just want to say thank you for really looking at this and dissecting it. I think you did a great job. You know, as having a year under my belt as being new, there was, so between our full meetings and the subcommittees, there was a lot of time, for sure. And even though this work is very important, I'm only speaking for myself, but most of us on this board have so many other commitments. But we want to make sure that we can put the time and effort into all these specific subcommittees and groups. So, I mean, I think it looks great. I really don't have any changes to suggest, I guess, where we don't have any folks in person. So we are one person down, I guess. I know we brought it up before, but are we thinking multiple people? Like, you know, how many people will sit on each? Like, those are kind of my
So it's typically 3 people to each committee. Of course, that we don't have 9 people, so it's not evenly divided. So the next step, should we vote on these? Should we approve these? Then the next step would be that I will send out an email saying, please let me know your preference, and then please also let me know whether or not you have the bandwidth to serve on more than one committee. Because, you know, I'm trying to be cognizant, you know, this is, it is an elected position. We all take it very seriously, yet we also, you know, this is unpaid time from everybody, and I recognize that. So I want to make sure the school is getting what the school needs, that the committee is involved in the areas that the committee needs to be involved and we're all, you know, using our time as efficiently as possible. So, you know, for those that are available to serve on more than one subcommittee, fantastic, please let me know that, I really appreciate that additional time. We'll figure it out. So, you know. Any other?
Yeah, my only comment is, I know you had asked us for some feedback quite some time ago, and I think my response was just, it looks good. I want to make sure you understand that it looks good to me. I sat down, I thought about the amount of time that I am aware from this past year that was spent doing on all of these committees, for myself and then from, you know, other committee members. And I think you did a really good job of thinking about which committees really overlap, and then the amount of time that you spend with the work. So like the finance and facilities, there's going to be a lot of work around budget season. Growth plans, there'll be work. It probably won't be as heavy as the budgeting process. But every committee seems to have one key area that's probably going to be the bulk of the work. And I don't see that one of the three is going to be more work than others. So I think that you did a really good job and it's well thought out. I wish I had replied with that rather than yes. So my apologies.
No, don't apologize. And I do want to recognize Heather did send me some very thoughtful questions. There were a couple that I think are good to bring up and to answer in this meeting. One that she was asking was, you know, how frequently will this subcommittee meet and for how long? That is entirely up to that subcommittee. Typically, a subcommittee has met once a month for 1 hour. That subcommittee is also welcome to decide, actually, we need 2 hours. It has sort of depended on the subcommittee. Some of them have gone over because there's been a really rich discussion going on. I'm not setting parameters for each of those subcommittees. Once the subcommittees are assigned, then we can get those scheduled, and then, of course, should the subcommittee need to adjust the amount of time they're meeting, depending on what the topics are, they can, of course, do that. I envision some subcommittee meetings will be quite short. I mean, I have certainly had ones that lasted 15 minutes, 30 minutes, just because there weren't many topics for that month. And I've had others that went on for a while. So that's, you know, no one's setting that. That's up to the subcommittee to decide. The other great question that was asked was, in terms of negotiations, what's the expectation of that labor relations committee? First of all, there's no negotiations happening this year, so that's not on the table. That said, what the hope is, or the vision is that union negotiations take up a tremendous amount of time and commitment from the union, from the district, and from the school committee. So what our hope is that this labor relations committee can make some recommendations as to who they envision serving. And then my personal hope, though I cannot guarantee this, is that we would then take a look at assignments to subcommittees and adjust it so that people who are serving on the negotiation committee would be relieved of their other subcommittee duties. Because those negotiations are hefty. I mean, they're meeting multiple times a week for many hours at a time. So my goal would be that we make some adjustments so that those who are serving that time are not also expected to serve other duties. I can't promise it, but that's the vision. So any other questions? Okay, so Hank, I know my thought was that we need to do a motion to dissolve the existing subcommittees.
So
Second.
So a motion by Hank and a second by Danielle. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? And I say yes. So we have now dissolved the existing subcommittees. And now I would entertain a motion to create the new finance and facilities, district operations, and labor relations subcommittees for the 2023 to 2024 school year as presented. Is that you, Sean? Okay. So a motion Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, and I say yes, so that is also unanimous. So thank you so much. I know we've been sort of waiting to do that, so yes, I will follow up with that email just to gauge folks' interest. Typically, what I ask folks to do is to just indicate first preference, second preference, third preference. Can't guarantee that everybody will get their first preference, but I'll do what I can to match interests and skill sets. We're always looking for superpowers here and to make sure people are serving where their superpowers are pushing the most good. Okay. There's no correspondence. And our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, September 21st at 5:30 p.m. For those who have not already noticed, we did move our school committee meetings to Thursdays to balance that out with our towns who hold their meetings on Wednesdays. And so we're excited for the change, but did want to make sure that we acknowledge that there was a change. The public, so the next meeting again will be Thursday, September 21st. We do need executive session this evening. Per Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A. So I would entertain a motion to enter into executive session as per Mass General Laws, which is Chapter 30A, Section 21A, for reason number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation with the UFCW and/or the NDEA. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating power of the public body, and the chair so declares, and I do. This meeting will not return into open session immediately following. So motion. By Shauna, second.
Second.
By Hank, and it's roll call, so Hank.
Aye.
Sean. Shauna.
Yes.
Danielle.
Aye.
Deb. And I say yes. So the meeting is adjourned, and we will enter into executive session. And we will take a break first.
And a break.
As recommended.